We're only 11 minutes late, but Happy New Year, my friend. Happy New
Happy
Year.
New
How
Year.
are you?
I'm good. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yes. Yeah. Still running the country. It's all going swimmingly.
Oh, look. There's a couple
As
of
you will have
things that you have to
noticed.
look forward to in life, and spending an hour with me this evening certainly I know is one of the highlights, one of
It's
your
fine.
weekly highlights.
We haven't done it. We haven't done it for a year. Yes. The last time I saw you was 2020. What happened?
Oh, yeah. I've gotten older. Good to see you. You're looking good.
I've got no older. Yes, I've always got older. Morning blues, guitar, and harmonica. That will be
That's young Warren.
Young Warren in Australia. Young Warren. Yeah. Young Warren. He's young Warren, definitely. Yeah. So you enjoyed your couple of weeks at Raglan on the coast. Very nice, but beautiful.
Loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. And I've left some friends there, and guess what? They texted me this morning. They texted rain.
If there's one thing that's going to make you feel better when you come back, isn't it? You left them there. So long, suckers. It started to rain.
I won't tell you. I won't tell you what I replied back to them, but
I can imagine.
Sure you...
I can imagine. Well, yeah. Did it include a laughter emoji by any chance?
A couple of emojis and a couple of
emojis. Yeah. With laughing, yes. You see, 51 Warren is young. Do you know, yeah. So in effect, Warren,
I'm not far off that. I'm a little bit older than that.
Approaching it. Or...
Oh, yeah. Hey, Brad.
I'm not for it. Brad Cook, how you doing? Happy New Year, Brad, to you too. Oh yeah. Enjoyed the show last night. It was really good, and I was even able. Did you notice I was even able to make a contribution in the comment afterwards?
Yeah.
You were trying to work out what the riff for Best of Both Worlds is. Well, of course, I'm on it like a ferret on a rabbit. Me, see, Cool in the Gang, celebrate.
Cool in the Gang. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely that, isn't it?
Absolutely. No, it was a great show. We had 3 hours of fun. Kurt's second show with us, and seems to be slotting in really, really well.
Yes. Happy New Year, Kurt! If you watch later.
Yeah, lucky to have him. Lucky to get him on, because what that guy knows.
He's got
about
depth, hasn't he? He's got depth. That was great. That was fantastic. It's not really my thing, which is hilarious. Fine, because just don't invite me on. That's a good idea. But for someone like Brad, who clearly is so passionate and so into his subject and stuff like that, and it's just brilliant. It's brilliant to watch. It's really cool. And Brad as well. You guys getting into it. Clearly on a subject you love, and there's nothing better than people, getting on a subject that they love to talk about and are interested in. It comes across really well. That's really good.
I know. I appreciate that, and I obviously it's a sideline. No disrespect to anybody who's going to watch the show or might be watching the show that is attached to that Van Halen show that we do, but it's a nice segue into what the channel's all about, and I'll be honest with you, Simon. If Eddie Van Halen hadn't passed away, we probably wouldn't be doing it. We wouldn't be contributing our opinions on Eddie Van Halen if he was still alive.
No, which is sort of sad, really, because it's because that kind of we've discovered that kind of digging into an album and really getting an idea of what we think about it, and actually digging into the songs, finding out the background of them, but also our reaction to them. When we listen to a song, what do you hear? What are you hearing? What bits do you like? And those, that I think it's that's really good and that's really fun, and I'm glad that it's fine. That you're doing it in different areas. I think Van Halen is definitely worth doing it because there's an audience for it. A lot of the guys here, are really into it, which is fantastic. You, Brad, and good morning, Robot Master Switch. Hope you're good. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Robot was awesome in the chat last night too. So look. I'll be honest and upfront with you guys and everyone watching. Since we've been doing that show, we've picked up some subscribers.
Good.
Because
it's good.
The channel.
Because it's good. It's I said just now. You, Brad, and Kurt getting into it. It's as I say, it's not Van Halen are not particularly my thing, but I still watch the shows and really enjoy them, and still enjoy going. It's cool in that gang. Come on, you youngsters, you do anything, buttering. You should hear me. It's hilarious. Buttering going there. They don't know, boys. They don't know anything. What they need is an expert. Typing away.
Yeah. No, it was enjoyable. It was enjoyable spending that time with Kurt and Brad, and yeah. It's good. It's a good, and I'm lucky in a sense that we're doing that fortnightly because if we did that show weekly, it would take a lot of work, because we have to do prep obviously for the shows that we do, our Sunday show. So hey, Sonia, we've got
Sonia. Good morning.
The
Happy New
Beatles
Year.
show coming up next week. Part 1 of Abbey Road. So that's going to take a lot of work.
Which is very exciting, and I've already started already because it's I realise it would take some time. So good morning, and Happy New Year to Sonia and to Arvin.
Yeah,
nice to be back, guys. Nice to see you. Hope you're all good and staying safe and well as the madness continues.
Yeah.
I have good news.
Madness talk.
I have good news
here.
Well, my mum's had both vaccines. Fine.
Awesome. Oh, fantastic. That's good. That's positive.
Well, no, it is. Yeah. It is really positive.
So one of the reasons why Simon and I are doing this show this evening, guys, we promised a while ago. We've done a couple of shows and a couple of topics on and around this album here, the Beano album, and that's a foundation album for the channel and a foundation album for a lot of the bands, Simon, isn't it? And a lot of the groups and the music that we follow. And we always knew that more information and more research was coming out and coming to light, and there's a lot of books and articles coming out. But I've got to hand it to Simon, some of these English magazines. I've got hold on.
Guitarist magazine,
I've got a couple of the hard copies of the Guitarist magazine. That's the tribute one that came out
Peter Green.
For Peter Green, and this is the December one, which is Peter Green as well, but it's also got a lot of information on Paul Kossoff. But one thing, Simon, that amazes me about the Guitarist magazine, and it sort of segues into the Van Halen show with the Japanese magazines that they do around the Eddie Van Halen guitars, how they take photos of the back of the guitars.
I thought that was really interesting. That was a really interesting from the show yesterday, wasn't it? That the Japanese, those magazines that Kurt has, amazing kind of collection of stuff, and Steve as well, Steve Anderson, that the amount of good morning, Luca. How you doing? Hope you're good. Happy New Year. The amount of pictures and the amount of interest they have in the gear is it's completely different, isn't it? It's a completely different way of looking at it from sort of the English magazines that I read in the 70s and stuff. Never did anything about music and instruments at all. Melody Maker, Enemy, stuff like that. All about the person.
It's completely different than the American magazines. But one good thing, though, is that the English magazines are following suit. they give a lot of that technical information, and they give a lot of backstories. And so you know, if you guys aren't aware of it, and I'm going to bring up the article on the screen, but the February issue of the Guitarist magazine has a wonderful article in there about the so-called missing Beano guitar. So if you have a look here, I'll add that. So this is so Simon and I.
While you're talking, can you put up Robot Master Switch's comment? It's really funny. The Beano is the ashes inside the Ashes trophy.
Yeah.
That's really good.
But if you guys haven't checked out, you can get it on digital. I know that getting hard copy magazines is an issue with what's been happening around the world, but digital stuff. So this is obviously the first page of the article, and then we flick over there, and if you have a look here, there's some interesting stuff there. So Simon and I just thought we'd go through this here. So it's written by an established guitar academic, a guy called Tony Baker, and a lot of you might be familiar with some of the guitar books that he's written. But just read that paragraph there, Simon. You know, that opening paragraph, he sort of nails it right from the start, doesn't he? You know, Eric Clapton's work on the '66 John Mayall album Blue Breakers inspired a whole generation of would-be blues guitarists.
Yeah, and I'd add one thing into that. It does come later, but age 21.
Yeah.
You know, that for me, that's one of the most astonishing things. That these things were made by young guys. You know, they weren't made by 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds. You know, they were made by people who were 20 years old. You know, and yet, if you think about the influence that that album has had, that sound has had, I mean, I almost can't think of another album which has had such an effect like that. You know, that kind of rolling effect of the Gibson, the Les Paul, and the Marshall plugged in and cranked. I mean, can you think of another sound that's had that type of sort of influence around the world? Every, you know, as it says in here, Billy Gibbons, you know, and
but
you know,
Billy
from
Gibbons,
Texas,
a young guitarist in Texas,
yeah, from Texas, yeah.
Listening and picking up that album in July '66, going and then turning the album over, and then they actually see the guitar.
That's right, on the back, yeah.
But what's really interesting here is that they talk about, you know, I didn't realise this, and forgive me if you guys already knew this, but I wasn't consciously aware of it. So 1960 was the last time apparently that they were going to produce the Gibson Les Paul.
Yeah, that's right. Well, they changed it, didn't they? They changed it to what is now the SG.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the Les Paul hadn't sold. You know, my favourite quote of that is, you know, the 58, 59 Les Pauls, Gibson made about 1,500 of them, which there are 4,000 still in circulation. Thank you to Ramon Goose for that, and what's his name? What's he called? The other guy on it. Anyway, that's my favourite line from that, which is really funny. Is which there are 4,000 still in existence. but yeah. Completely, you know, that they'd gone. They were the old style guitars, and you know, Les Paul had, you know, I think that deal had run out. I think my understanding is that there's always talk of a bit of a tiff, but I don't think Les Paul particularly liked it and didn't want to continue with the deal. But yeah, they made kind of, they raised 1,500 over those 3 years. They didn't really sell very much, and therefore, you know, but you get to 5 years later, 5 years later. You know, and you know, they haven't made one for 5 years. They haven't made that single cutaway, the classic shape, for 5 years.
Yeah. Well, it was relatively brand new when he bought it.
Yeah. Well, it would be, wouldn't it? You know, it might be if he bought it second hand, and it looks like from this article as though he did probably bought it nearly new. Somebody may have bought it and then, you know, probably was pre-owned as a as a guitar. But yeah, I think that that it's they weren't the coming thing at all, and weren't seen as being
No.
they were being called, as he says at the bottom of that first page, the old model. And
And there he
you
is
know,
there in where is he? So this is
come on, thank you.
66. So he's sitting there with his
66, yeah,
Levi's, tennis
yeah,
shoes, and this photo here is interesting because this photo came out on one of the Eric Clapton Facebook groups about this time last year, Simon. This was discovered about
yeah,
a
yeah,
year ago,
yeah, yeah.
and the only known colour photo there with him playing. Look at that setup. You know, just standing right next to the amps.
On the floor.
Look at
Yeah,
look at the McVie there. Looks like he's
yeah,
going to a wedding.
yeah. Yeah, see, they didn't quite, still, yeah, still the suit and tie stuff going on, which is,
How loud do you think they would have been in a gig like that? So that there is at the Lynx Club in '66. So it looks like he's playing his blues breaker, his 2x12, probably
and
there.
yeah, and he's got the Burns thing. What's that Burns thing from that 3 speaker thing? That's not the PA, is it?
Don't know. Has that got something to do with
The
John
thing that's,
Mayall's?
well, I don't know, because John Mayall seemingly got a big amp behind him, isn't he? I suppose it could be, but yeah, I don't. There's another picture of it somewhere. I think maybe on one
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
other pages. That
We'll get to it.
okay, I was really interested by that oh, there it is. Yeah, if you go on to page, what is it? Can't read. page 63. That's helpful, isn't it? Yeah, if you go on through about 3 or 4 pages, there's another picture of the two of them standing there, the other color shot that's in this show, with Clapton's got a brown leather jacket on, and yeah, stuck on the floor, plugged straight in. You'll notice no effect. And
As typical, Simon's flipping 3 pages ahead of the
sorry,
show.
apologies.
Well, the intention is to go through the article.
Sorry, I've been sidetracked by the Burns thing at the front. What even is
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I'll behave myself.
Yeah, it's
but,
okay. Well, what's interesting though, Simon, is that you got any idea on how loud they would have been playing back then? Have you got any?
Well, I think that that Eric clearly is playing loud, isn't he? I mean, loud, but loud for a 50-watt amp. And remember, I think and you can tell me if this is true of this amp because you've got one. But for instance, I've got a 30-watt PV, which is sort of in the same sort of thing, and it doesn't. Once you get past about, it goes up to 12, by the way, not 10. But once you get past about 7, it doesn't get any louder. Is that the same with your Nelson Rodriguez? Happy New Year. Good morning. How you doing?
Oh, it's loud.
Yeah.
7, 8 is loud. Then 9, it's pretty much.
Is it maxed out or not?
Then,
does it go to? Does
10,
it go to 10 or does it go to 12?
And then 10. Yeah. 10 is a nudge up. It's pretty loud. But I've not played it though in a what was that? That was a youth club, so that would have been a pretty big hall, Simon, back then. Do you think?
So my assumption is that that as we know, Eric was a pretty single-minded guy at that stage, and therefore he would be cranking it to the required volume. So you'd be saying 7 or 8, wouldn't you? That sort of region, possibly not right up, but maybe right up, and then controlling it on the guitar, controlling the volume on the guitar. Although it does surprise me that he could play that loud against because I mean, you see there's a lot of other questions I'm like, what sort of PA are they using? Are they miking the drums? Are they miking the other instruments? In which case, no, I don't think they are. No, I think they're just playing, aren't they? So in effect, and the one thing we can say about Mick Fleetwood is he's not the world's heaviest drummer, is he?
He's no John Bonham.
No, and so you would say, wouldn't you, that if Eric was, because I know this, that if I play my amp on about 4, I can keep up with any drummer you like. Now, I would suggest that playing your amp at 7, if you've got your guitar on full volume, that's going to overtake the drums, at least going to, really knock them back in the, in the band mix. I don't know, be interesting to know whether they actually did that. As you said, as Warren says, probably the size of the average scout hut kind of thing, village hall type of thing, which will hold, 300 or 400 people kind of, I guess. But not very big. And I suppose the bodies soak up the sound quite a lot. But it is interesting, isn't it, that how loud you could actually play. And you've got one of these albums, so yeah. I mean, for you, and you've played in bands as well, Andrew. Do you reckon you could play it on 7 in a band situation? I mean, there you are. Look, yes, there's.
Well, there he is there. So he's there with his blues breaker behind him, and he's right there. And that's a small kit, isn't it? By any, that's a small drum kit. The small bass, it looks like a small bass behind him there. So
yeah. And are you skipping ahead?
No, it's the next page.
It's already pulling a leg. Yeah. So you are saying that if Fleetwood is playing that drum kit, it doesn't look like Fleetwood, does it? Anyway,
no, that's Huey.
If you're playing, yeah, it's Huey Flint. Yeah, that clearly not mic'd. And he's playing it in that he's playing the snare with the open style, isn't he? The jazz style, which means that he's not. He's not doing that, is he? He's doing that, flicking his wrist on the snare. Therefore, he's not going to get a massive amount of volume. So, are they just going, fine, it's going to be loud, but it's going to be mainly lead guitar, because that has to cut through? Or is he turning down the volume of the guitar? See, this is when you get one of these eternal questions, don't you, about what's better, crank the amp and turn the guitar down? Clearly, you turn the guitar down, you clean it up. Or do you only put the amp on, say, 5, but then crank the Les Paul so that you get the full signal?
Yeah, I think given all the conversation and the status that Clapton had pretty early on when he was in the Blues Breakers, and that following he was getting Simon during the Yardbirds, and half the people would go to his side of the stage and just stand there and look at him playing. I'm pretty sure I'm pretty sure the amp and the guitar would have been the determined instrument next to obviously Mayall's vocals.
Yeah. Yes, and but this is interesting, that you and I clearly have, done that, and as I say, if I play on 4 or 5, that's probably too loud for the average drummer.
Yeah.
Somebody with heavy hands will keep up, but that's that's way louder than I need to be in a band mix. If you're having a band mix on stage, kind of thing, and seeing what it's fitting it in with the levels out the front. So yeah, be interested to know about.
What do you think about these prices here? Obviously being our resident English expert.
Do you like the guineas? Do you like the guineas?
Yeah. So it's good how they push. It sounds posh. But what's really interesting is that
horse races. Horse races are bought in guineas. Yes, racehorses are bought in guineas. They're the only thing left that are bought in guineas now.
Is that he paid £110 for it. The average weekly wage in Britain at that time was 20, and so Clapton was making 12, and Clapton was making £20 a week. But what's really interesting there is that a Strat at that time, if you were buying one in the UK, would have been £170. So these guitars weren't cheap, Simon.
No, because they were subject, because there was that thing about, wasn't it, that they didn't turn up for ages because of the we had a. It sounds funny giving it now, but we had a trade embargo on them from the US. So I mean
The
so that
enemy.
yeah, much like now. But
So much for fighting the war together.
it does. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's there's nothing to stopping.
Hey,
You've got to buy British. I mean, it's the
hey,
ultimate buy British thing, isn't it? It's
you
hilarious
defeat
sort of.
fascism and you still have to pay through the nose for a good American guitar.
Yeah. And then and then you can't buy one for love nor money because. But I mean, the interesting part about that is that clearly when Eric comes to buy one in '66, they're out of fashion. They are, so being imported as the kind of last year's model kind of thing, and so one of the interesting things is there probably weren't very many, were there?
No.
Not very many in the country. I mean, he says in the article, doesn't he, that he tried to find another one, but it's quite hard to find another one because there weren't hundreds of them dotted around all over the country, kind of thing. Which is, yeah. I love the guineas thing. It's just made me laugh. That is, as I say, racehorse is the only other thing sold and bought in guineas. It's lovely, but yeah. So you're talking about what 10 times the average person's average weekly wage. That's quite a lot, isn't it?
What's really interesting there, if you have a look there, they've got it circled there, 105 guineas, and then just above that you've got your Gretsch, Chet Atkins. Now, when I read that, 120 guineas, and we know that George Harrison played a Gretsch, so that Gretsch would have been an expensive guitar too. So if anyone thought that he was playing a Gretsch because it was a cheap guitar, no.
No, that's right, and I think that's right. That they. When you look further down, as a Guild Starfire guitar, it was 118 guineas.
Yeah.
And you've got Epiphone Rivola semi-acoustic bass guitar for 135. That's fun, this, isn't it? Even the Burns being a British make, a 12-string bass guitar is 125 guineas.
Yeah.
They're not
not cheap.
no, none of it is cheap. None of them are cheap instruments. None of them are, they're being sold as clearly as kind of, I would say they're being sold as kind of luxury items, aren't they? If your average wage is £12 a week, clearly a guitar is a luxury item for most people, which is
Can I offer this in the conversation? I think for a long time in human history we only ever had really, really good gear, Simon. Generally speaking, if you wanted a guitar, generally speaking, it was always going to be pretty good. Therefore, it was going to be at this price range. It's only been since the last 20 years, 10 years, 15 years, where
10
you've
years
been
probably,
able to get, relatively inexpensive, pretty good guitars. But for a long period of the history of rock and roll, you were paying serious money, Simon.
Oh no, absolutely, yeah. And I think you're right. It is only in the last. Well, I mean, as I've said on this channel before, my first guitar was a. But even my first guitar in 1972 might have cost 50 quid, which for me, I didn't start working in 1972, but if you're talking about being say £15 a week, 50, still three weeks salary.
He's right.
It's still 3 weeks salary, yeah. But Brad, if you think about it, I mean, if I think about what I earn now, if I bought if I 3 times my salary, my net salary I'd take home would be, I don't know, 10 grand. If I saved that, not that I'm able to, but yeah, not weekly, it wouldn't be that much, but would be the price of a would be the price of a kind of custom shop. What, £3,500? People have three custom shop Les Paul, or not quite, not even that actually. So I think you're right. They're still at that level. It's still quite a luxury item. I think that what's happened is that clearly they've decided there's a market for more people to be able to buy them, so they make. And I think in the last 5 years, particularly, the quality has gone up massively. For all the Far Eastern guitars and things, you could get a good guitar. I mean, look at the new Epiphones. Look what clearly really good guitars. For £700 or £800, $700 or $800. I think that Epiphone has done a fantastic job doing bringing their quality of their instruments up, and so that people can buy near Les Paul stuff for way cheaper. But so I think Robot Master Switch wanting to know what a a guinea Robot Master Switch is £1 and 5 shillings. 5 shillings being 25p in modern money. So I can't remember the guinea old sort of stuff, but yeah, £1 and 5 shillings. So as I say, it's funny to see guitars priced in guineas, because mostly it's racehorses still sold and things. But I think it's a way of making them sound cheaper, but charging a bit more. It's like the £14.99 thing rather than 15. You can make the number slightly smaller. 140 guineas will be £145 kind of thing. 20 yeah.
So what's really interesting here on this article by Tony Bacon is that he goes in. So we've basically discussed all this information here on these couple of paragraphs where he's talking about the restrictions on British imports. But have a look. There's the Beano there again. Look at that. Just fantastic.
With the covers on.
Yeah.
Still. So it must have been when he first got it, because he'd take them off, didn't he, fairly quickly?
Yeah. So this is in 65. So this is plays the now Leger standard
Pontiac Club Putney.
And 65. So he's pretty well fresh to the Blues Breakers.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And as I say, you could tell. I'd make an assumption that was early because the pickup covers are still on. And he did take them off, didn't he?
Yeah.
And his recommendation is take them off.
Apparently, he did it himself.
I think that's probably true. I think the interesting part is, I mean, I'm old and stupid, but when I first got my first guitar in maybe, I don't know, 72, 73. Great Vanzini, Happy New Year. How you doing? Hope you're good. When I've got my first guitar in 72, 73, 14 or 15, this hideous Jedson thing, but I didn't know anybody who knew about guitar techs. I didn't know about guitars needing a setup. I didn't know about guitars, intonation, any of it. All you do is you thought, oh, yeah, all right, I can tune it up to the piano kind of thing, and see if I can get a tune out of it. But I didn't know anything about that. So my guess is that there weren't that many people around doing that stuff in the 60s. And therefore, you did a lot of that stuff yourself, You and I wouldn't be touching a 5960 Les Paul and taking the covers off it. You're going, ooh, dear, we'll be doing that. I'm afraid to do my own guitars, my not very expensive guitars. But
I got my magnet flipped in my neck pickup on my Les Paul. I didn't do that.
I know. Well, yes.
I got my luthier to do that.
And my not Les Paul, my Chapman Classic has the Peter Green sound in it anyway. And you can, as an out of phase thing on it, you can do. But so my guess is that for a lot of these guys, unless something serious went wrong with them, you did it yourself. Yeah. Did the teching and all of that. I don't know. Do they have techs in those days? I bet they didn't. Do you think they had, because they haven't got loads of kit, have they? I mean, the thing, it's not. I don't know if it's true, but the thing about the Marshall, that Clapton asked Marshall to design something he could fit into his car. I don't think that's actually true, but nevertheless, Marshall produced so clearly they're carrying it themselves, aren't they? They haven't got a man, and they might have a van, like the Rolling Stones had Mickey Stewart and his van, but clearly they were hefting it themselves, weren't they?
A roadie's a little bit different from a guitar tech. The Beatles had a roadie,
Well,
didn't they?
true, yeah. Neil Aspinall.
Aspinall, and
yeah,
and there's plenty of photographs of George Harrison and Paul McCartney changing their own strings and adjusting the bridges and stuff like that. But look at this quote here. He's saying, this is Eric Clapton saying, "I was pleased with my sound while I was with John Mayall," Eric said a few years later. "Those Gibsons have the perfect blues sound." So, of
it's
course
funny
he's
that,
going to
isn't
say
it?
that.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that the perfect blues sound is something that that you made, Eric.
Yes.
I mean, the point about that is that the classic blues sound is something that Eric made out of two comparatively new things. Yeah, the Marshall was. Yes, they are great, wasn't he? That the Marshall was a comparatively new thing, isn't it? Only a couple of years old. The Les Paul's only
just a
6
cheap
years old.
English amp.
Cheap English amp, 6 years old.
Yeah.
The guitar itself 6 years old. So people haven't had years like we've all had to get into the sound of the gear, and really
No.
so it feels to me like they're kind of experimenting. They're kind of he's found a sound and it goes around the world. So and now does he think that sound is the sound that he hears from, let's say, Freddie King?
Yeah.
And it's but I would say that if you think that the Gibsons and the Marshall is the sound of the blues, Eric, or the sound that you made, that's a bit of contradiction with itself, isn't it? At odds with itself as a statement, because that's what you made, not.
Oh, he's a humble Englishman.
Clearly. I don't think Eric was particularly humble in those days, was he?
No, he did have an air of
slightly. He had that kind of reserved shyness that could be mistaken for arrogance.
He rubbed people up the wrong way. There's plenty
plenty of evidence for that, isn't there? Yeah.
We'll flick the page. So here's the one that Simon was jumping to.
Sorry, boss.
That's okay. So let's just have a look here and see on the paragraph. Is there anything? So he's talking about cream there. Cream is nothing really.
Well, he's talking about the Les Paul being stolen at rehearsals, isn't he?
Yes.
And in fact, it comes out in Record Mirror.
Yeah.
With about 400 quid, see, he says that I'd like to get another Les Paul, but there are only about another 6 or 7 in the country.
That's correct.
Clearly importing them by the yard. Yes, not. But yeah, but he clearly says with Grover machine heads, which would be taking off the original ones, and so even then it had Grover machine heads.
Yeah.
To improve the tuning. But, yeah, not much. There's not much there, is there? 5 or 6 years old, small and solid, one cutaway, red gold in colour with Grover machine. The back is very scratched, and there are several cigarette burns. It's not a huge amount to go on. It's not even a kind of serial number thing.
So this is one of the new photos that came out the same time.
Yeah,
so that all the Clapton nuts were going gaga over for about 6 months. And there he is there.
Yeah. See, what interests me is, what's this Burns thing in the front? Is that a PA? And I can only assume that maybe Great Vanzini knows what that is. No, I don't. Do you reckon? I mean, it's clearly not a guitar amp, is it?
No. But look how far he's standing from his blues breaker. He's only, what, 3 feet away from that amp, and that amp would be on 10, Simon.
Yeah, good thing. Yeah, the good thing he hasn't got his ears on his knees. So in effect, if he's standing that close to it, he'd be missing most of it, won't he? Because most of it's going straight out. You know, as I say, past his no ears on his knees and straight out to the audience.
No, so Robot's saying this might be an amp. It looks like a 3x10, doesn't it? Clearly, it's a 3x10. 3x10.
Yeah.
Is it a PA?
3x10. Is that a PA? So, you know, it's interesting, isn't it? See what they. Sorry, I'm distracting.
Look at John Mayall. He's always so into it, isn't he? He just
but
gosh.
I mean, it is interesting that, isn't it? That they. Let's see what this looks like. Vintage Burns. Oh, that's not very helpful. I got a picture of a Burns PA thing. It's got the top left-hand corner.
I think Arvin might be right. Has it got something to do with the organ,
it
could be a Yeah, it could be Mayall's
that's true.
Hammond.
Yeah, good point, Arvin. Yeah. So, yeah. Just let's have a look. 6 3x12 international. Let's have a look. Well, kind of looks like it. Yeah, international transistor amplifier. So it looks like a bit like that. Actually, that's like the PA, which is funny, isn't it?
Maybe it's the PA for Eric Clapton when he sings "Ramblin'."
Do you think they had? Well, if you go back to that's a very interesting point. If you go back to one of the other pictures, there is a picture of that one of those Burns amps on top of the organ.
That's coming.
No, it's previous. It's previous, sir. Yeah, if you go back to the first colour picture, page 2, back one. There. No, back another one. Right there, you see? On the colour photograph, if you zoom into the colour photograph, there is the Burns on top of John Mayall's organ.
Yeah.
And there's another one on the floor.
There it is there. Yeah. Can you guys see my mouse on the screen moving?
We can, yeah. We can see a little the little white arrow of doom.
So that's the Burns that we're looking at on the previous photo. So it looks like that's John Mayall's one, and that's probably one for the headbangers in the front, Simon.
The headbang, yes. Those metal boys at the front, yes.
The Lagerlouts.
In the days before Lagerlouts were invented. I think that's very good. But yeah, so I don't know what that is. But I suppose there's another one on a stool this time. See, what's he? You're suggesting that each microphone is plugged into one of those, and is put at the front.
When I looked at this article, that's what I thought.
Well, no, it makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, I've told the story on this. When I worked in a record shop in Bristol, and worked for a very fine local guitar player called Tony Dodd. He was a lovely guy, and but he was in the first rock and roll band ever to play at the Colston Hall, which is my local municipal hall, and he has a picture of it. And it's a hilarious picture because obviously the drummer's got the drums, but there are 2 guitarists standing in front of the guitar amp, so you can't see the guitar amp. This is in a 1,800-seater hall. 2 guitars, both playing in one amp. I think maybe a Vox AC30. And then the bass player has clearly got a bit more, so he's standing in front of that. And then the PA are these very thin, long kind of strips that are hardly noticeable on the side of the stage, which the singers go through. So in effect, the stage, the 2 guitars blur out one of the amps. You've got a little drum kit and a little bass amp, and that's it. And this tiny little. So clearly that that looks like they're using that PA as a
Arvin, I think that's a
you know
power cord. I think that's the power cord that.
is that CHORD.
But I can't. I'm just looking through here. That there's no discussion, obviously, on the amps here. So
No, no,
that's
there's not
another
at all.
article. That's maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Let's just see. No,
So
yeah.
interesting that they say that the maple top can be something of a fingerprint when it comes to identification if they find the guitar, Simon. But who's going to identify it? Are you going to identify a 58 or a 59 Les Paul from these photos? It's impossible. And Eric Clapton probably wouldn't be able to recognise it 50 years later, would he?
Do you know what? I think he would.
You reckon he would?
I think he would. Yeah, I think he would be able to.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Well, I know what you mean. You mean, are you seriously telling me, Simon, that he's going to be able to identify a guitar he last played 55 years ago?
Well, guitars have funny things. They're funny things, aren't they? With a guy, and
Yeah.
If
you make a connection, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm not going to argue with you. There's a probability that he probably could. Because he's still got his marbles.
No, completely. Yeah. So look at it and stuff, and I mean, have you seen that? There's some it's a film of him when they show him the kind of custom shot Clapton, the Blackie Strat, I think is a custom shot when they he's in a room and and he plugs it into a Fender Blues Deluxe or whatever, and he's like he's feeling the neck and he's going, this is really close. I don't know when he still had Blackie and when he was doing that, but so clearly he's sorry, I'm just looking at these Burns amps, and it does look like their amplification and PA system. So it does look like their PA amp things.
Yeah.
How funny, yes. With the three 12-inch speakers in them.
I think his eyes would fall out of his hands.
His eye would fail, but his hands, ears, and belly would know. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd throw a guinea each way on whether or not he would be able to recognise it 50 years later, or there's a high probability he could or he couldn't. 50 years is a long time, but who knows, Simon? Who knows?
Well, no, completely, yeah. And being able to, if it ever came to light, I don't know that. Yeah, there's some funny things in there because about if people know where it is and things, which we can come to in a bit.
Okay, well, it's interesting. So we're there now. So what do you think about John Bonamassa's
assertion? That he thinks he's going to collect on the east coast of America. Well, clearly Bonamassa's a collector. He knows a lot about it. Yeah, it's a lot of knowledge, and that he's played a lot of them, seen a lot of them. Why? If he says that it's the Beano, I probably, clearly he's hedging around. There's a lot of issues around. I've identified Eric Clapton's stolen guitar. Although I understand there's some kind of statute of limitations in America about these things. and there's some very strange. You'll be pleased to know that we've got some very strange laws in Britain about. Did you read? Is it in here? This article about about markets and stuff like that, and in if selling it between the hours of 8 and 5 or something, and if you sell it in good faith, then you can't be done for it. I don't know. Very odd.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced it's in the States.
No, well, I'm not convinced by that either. Because if nobody's seen the guitar for what did I say? Where am I? 55 years. You're kind of like, is even Joe Bonamassa from the pictures that we're showing. Clearly the pictures you're showing. It would be very difficult to recognise that guitar from these pictures, wouldn't it? In any way, shape, or form. So therefore, you'd have to be told that that was what it was, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't know any other. I mean, how would you know? The answer is you wouldn't know, because clearly you'd be in a position where if nobody, if it's been in that collection for 50 years, whatever, then then I think that would be a push, wouldn't it? Unless somebody told you it was, I don't know. As I say, I don't. It don't seem to be anything that maybe Joe knows more about, the guitar later. And you see that I love this thing. I'll just read this out because they obviously clearly Tony Baker went and asked Scotland Yard about it. A spokesman for Scotland Yard told us there were so-called open markets in London at the time of the Beano theft. Sales had to be made between dusk and dawn to allow the rightful owner to claim back their goods before sunrise. After sunup, the sale could take place, and some big civil cases concerning transactions at these places resulted in the buyer keeping the goods. If a stolen guitar was sold elsewhere and the buyer did not pay a reasonable, I've got to go to the next page, a reasonable market price for it, the courts in any civil action could rule the buyer must have known something was suspect and the item was therefore not theirs. This could result in it being returned to the original owner. If, however, the buyer bought the item in good faith and paid a reasonable market value for it, then the courts might rule the rights to the item are with the buyer. So, necessarily. For me, the interesting thing is that the detail about the case. That the next week when he was playing somewhere else, somebody came and stole the case.
Yeah.
From sort of so clearly somebody.
It was an inside job. It was an inside job by another musician who wanted that guitar. And obviously I can't prove that. It's just my theory, because if you had the guitar, who would want the case? If you're a roadie, or you're working in the bar, or you're working in the club, or you're a delivery guy or a cleaner or something like that, Simon, you've got access to all the gear. You've got a key to get in there. You're a barmaid. You could be anybody. But is this where we talk about Ramon's
I think so, yeah.
video?
Yeah.
So if you guys haven't checked out Ramon's video, I've left a link to his channel, to a video on the description of this show here that Simon and I are doing. And some of you were on when we interviewed Ramon about a year ago. And incidentally, I got a message from Ramon saying that he wants to come back on and do another show with us. So we've got to organise that.
Good.
So if you guys in the chat, and Simon and Brad and I can get some thoughts together so that we can nut out his theory, go and check out his video that he's got with Bob, and have a listen and have a look and see what these guys have to say. But I'm going to get Simon to succinctly talk about that video now, and just to make it easy for the guys that don't want to go and watch it. So, what do you reckon,
No, that's right.
Simon?
Well, the video is Bob has a 59 Les Paul. So,
Yep.
and basically they've and then they have this other guitar, which Bob, clearly having played quite a lot of them and knows something about them. He's kind of my age, a bit older than me, but so he goes through the guitar from starting at the neck, starting at the headstock and going down. So to sort of,
very
it's a
very
very
good.
interesting. It's a very interesting way of, if you know about those guitars and what you're looking for, in terms of the authenticity of the guitar. Is it a 60 Les Paul? And what are the things that are wrong with it? And he goes down. So, for instance, he starts off with the headstock, and the headstock has clearly been refinished. So there's no Les Paul written on it. There's no serial number, although you can see where there probably was one on the back, but there's no serial number. There's a shallow tuners have been changed to Goto or something. No, anyway, whatever. They changed the tuners, which is pretty common, and Eric Clapton's had the same thing on it as well. Yes, the headstock had a break, pretty clean break, sort of below before you get going up, before you get to the nut. So it had a break, and clearly it had a refin around that, and I think so. And then going down the neck, the front pickup was a Seymour Duncan, an old one, but still a Seymour Duncan. The owner, who clearly remains anonymous, was had the original pickup, but it didn't seem to work. Nothing particularly drastic, but so the knobs, I think, had been changed, hadn't they? Were they not necessarily original, or you couldn't tell if they were original or not, could you?
You couldn't tell. No,
because they're so common and you can get them anywhere.
Yep.
The body had clearly had a refin and an overspray, which made it look a bit odd, didn't it? Make it look like thrown tomato soup on it. So yeah, it had been refinned, resprayed kind of thing, and on the back as well. So there were quite a lot of things. One of the pots seemed to be original, but one of them had some pretty dodgy soldering done to it. Bob was particularly complimentary about that. So he went through his guitar. He went through the bridge and everything about was it authentic? And I think the conclusion was that it was an authentic 1960 Les Paul. It had some 59-ish sort of bits to it that could possibly, it was a bit of a on the cusp, but these things are a continuum, not a stop and start. It's as I said earlier, that's the program that Bob says, out of the 1,500 Les Pauls that were made, 4,000 are still in circulation, which I think is a good salutary way of saying, you've got to be really careful with this sort of thing, because it's a lot of money involved in those. But clearly, from his experience, this is the real thing. Was the real thing, and they kind of speculate at the end, don't they, about, because there are so few, as we've seen from this article. Eric says clearly there are only about another 6 or so in the country. Whether this is one of the sort of famous Les Pauls, don't they? When they speculate about whether it's the Beano, could be the Beano, although because it's been refinned and stuff like that, it's really difficult to know. You can't really match it up to that because you have no headstock serial number. Well, you don't know what Eric's was, and this one doesn't have one on it. So, but there's also speculation that it's the Andy Summers one.
But what's really interesting though, Simon, is that guitar was always in the UK. The one that they're talking about. They can
so it is a
that.
Contemporary. It is a contemporary.
Yeah. It's never been. Well, it was made in the UK. Was obviously made by Gibson in the US and shipped to the UK. So, it had always been in the UK.
That's right. Since they said, the owner said that he'd had it since 72 or something, and they kind of.
That's correct. Yeah.
The very early 70s. Great Vanzini, no, there is nothing known. There's nothing known about Eric's serial number.
No
There's
serial
no
number.
record of that. And the
None.
one that they were looking at doesn't have a serial number on it. So
Yeah.
you clearly be very difficult to, to, you know, I mean, and Eric gives, as we've seen in this article, gives a sort of, you know, pretty sketchy, you know, there's not really much to go on there in terms of spotting if, you know, whether you've got the right one or not, is there? From his description, a few cigarette burns. I'm sure that every musician playing had a few cigarette burns, you know, jamming in between the strings.
Yeah, I don't want to put any thoughts in anyone's minds, but if you guys, you know, because we're going to continue, obviously, talking about this guitar as information comes to light, and we'll do another show in a month's time catching up. But if you guys go and watch this video that Simon has been elaborating for you, see what you guys think, and then come back to us when we go and do another show, because we're all musicians, we're all guitar players, and we operate on gut feeling. It's who we are as music lovers, you know. So I think, Simon, the guitar is in the UK. I don't think it's in North America. It hasn't left the UK, and that could be that could be that, you know, that's a candidate
one of them
for that guitar.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the other thing, if you were going back to your theory about if it was an inside job, somebody knew what they were stealing, kind of thing, in some way, shape, or form, or wanted it, you know, that the interesting part would be if you'd stolen it. Then clearly, do you think they sold it on after a bit? Because if I'd stolen that guitar and I realised that it actually, you know, and it must have been clear in a couple of years later, even, that, you know, it was a pretty special thing, you know, that sound and that what he did was, you know, was influencing guitarists all round. I mean, I suppose they could have sold it for money and stuff like that, but you know, why would you refinish it? The body, you want to disguise it in some way, you know.
Well done, well done.
Well done. Clapton Strat.
Well done,
Warren. Cool. We expect to see pictures. And
I think, yeah, I think, Simon, it's the person that wanted that guitar was somebody that wasn't necessarily a professional musician, but was somebody that was a bedroom player, a music fan, and knew what that guitar meant even back then. So someone involved, someone pretty close to the music industry, and probably someone with a bit of responsibility and maybe even a reputation, who probably hasn't come out and said, because Andrew's got the biggest mouth in New Zealand, hey, this is Eric Clapton's pinched guitar. What do you think about this? And then what's Andrew? Andrew's going to jump on his YouTube channel with Simon and do a show about it.
And that would be cool, wouldn't it?
And then I'll get my head beaten. And yeah.
They'd have to go a long way to do it, though. You're safe.
Yeah.
But I sort of, I kind of get that. I saw, what was it, last year, just before the lockdown. I saw Bernie Marsden playing the Beast. I went to see Ariel Posen play. Yeah, and Bernie turned up with the Beast, and played it. And so I've got a little video on my phone, I think, something and playing it. But the sound was just immense. It was a sound unlike I'd ever heard from any guitar. Yeah, there's a picture of it there with the Beano thing. And that's what's true. But it was it was unbelievably kind of rich, I would say. It was big and thick and rich in a way that I've never heard a guitar sound like that. Not another guitar, I haven't heard, not that I remember anyway. But I remember being struck by it, as a thing. You think, listen to that. Good Lord, that is a sound, all right. So I can see that if Eric's played in the same way, that what a 59 Les Paul you're getting, are you, Warren? It's well done. I'm joking. It's a yeah, I do. Yes, I agree, Sonia. Yes, I love how the magazine says it's worth £50 million or something. It's a bit spurious, but yeah, going back to the Beast, it had a sound unlike any other guitar that I've ever heard. I've heard some decent guitars, but and the way that Bernie plays it and stuff, it was just amazing. So, it's which you obviously clearly don't get from YouTube videos, kind of thing. But it's I'll have a look at it, Andrew, later after this, and I'll send it to you if it's clearly it won't suffer the compression of YouTube, just the compression of my phone. But I can see why somebody would think it was was an amazing sound. And stuff. So
yeah, interesting.
Well, I guess.
And then we back over here on the last page. What's this? So Eric and McVie, and they're making a comment here about his guitar strap.
The unique guitar strap, Otis Rush.
Otis Rush, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, do they? Yeah, yes. I don't think it's not much of an identifier, is it? The strap, unless you still have the strap in the case, I suppose. But seemingly, is he? Who's playing? Interestingly, is he playing through a Vox AC30? There is that a Vox AC30?
He's probably got 3 of them plugged in by that stage.
3 chaining them together.
He's probably got 3 daisy chained. But interesting. It's interesting. So and to spoil you guys, we'll put you at your minds at ease. This isn't
That's not
Beano
it.
guitar. All right.
One thing we can say with absolute certainty is that Mr. Walton is not the secret owner of the Beano.
Despite any rumours you might hear, this is not it.
Quite right. Let's just put that in there clearly, in case the me learned friends are watching and will be round your house. Mr. Walton, we believe you are in possession of.
I know. I can tell you, my friend, that one that's bought and paid for through hard work. That one.
Blood, sweat, and tears.
Blood, sweat, and tears, brother.
Just
quickly. So, what do you reckon? So, obviously, they end this article talking about
how much it would be worth.
What it would be worth, So, when you consider Gilmore's strap went for 4. And the amount of people out there today, Simon, who understand and realise the significance of that guitar and the album behind it, what do you reckon? You going to give me a figure?
I don't know. Well, clearly, I think it'd be more than his Blackie strap. I don't know, 5 million, 10. It's one of those things where it's worth what somebody's prepared to pay for it on a particular day. What was
10 million. What's those Japanese guys?
What was the one that they were? Whose guitar were they selling before Christmas that didn't sell? No. Was it Clapton's? Which one? Which one was they selling of his?
Unfortunately, it was just the guitar that he played. So some of the articles about it are sort of saying, making a big deal out of nothing. But when you consider that Clapton would play 50 guitars a year, it's one of those guitars, Simon, just a guitar that he played. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, it's the one that what's he called? Music is Win guy went to play in New York. Yeah.
That's correct.
Is that just when he played for a bit kind of thing? There's nothing special about it.
Yeah.
Or was it 58 or something?
No, it was nothing special about it. But you know, the Beano, I reckon, once those Japanese guys start bidding, and some of
54.
those,
His 54 Strat fails
yeah,
to get a single bid.
yeah. So I reckon the Beano would get 10 million, easy.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong
Yes,
with Epiphones.
no, God, no. Especially right now. They seem to be absolutely on a roll, don't they? Epiphone. There's Mr. Al John Go seems to have done a tremendous job in going back to the original headstock, pulling them up by their bootstraps, keeping away from the Gibson controversies. Well done.
Yeah.
So you're right.
So,
This 50-54 one name, he apparently first played it in about 1979, 1980.
yeah.
Playing Tulsa time on it, and I would have seen him doing it, but yeah, nobody wanted to pay more than $1 million for it. So
No, it's not worth it.
No, because it's You mean it's later on in his career? It's not one of the seminal guitars that he used to make these seminal records. Yeah, it's not like the Fool SG or the Beano one. Yeah. Sonia, you shouldn't say that. Most people are disappointed in me. That's a terrible thing to say. We don't normally allow that sort of negativity in the chat in our things, Sonia.
So the Indianapolis Colts owner, Jim, I'm not going to pronounce his surname, has a remarkable guitar collection, includes several high-end Gilmore's Strat.
Yes,
would be interested in the Beano if it ever showed up for sure, he says. It's Eric's and it's rare.
Yeah. Well, it's Eric. It's a 5960 Les Paul, so and used to create one of the seminal albums of the sound of blues rock ever after, really, isn't it? That sound, the Marshall and the Les Paul.
Even 5 million for a guitar, Simon. $4 million. It's just, gosh, when you think about it, gosh.
Yeah, it's like anything. You're paying for history, aren't you? What you're paying for is history. Well, you're paying for rarity value in terms of it's a 59 Les Paul, 60 Les Paul, but you're also paying for the fact that you're paying for history, and that's always worth something. Rarity and history. Will drive the price up. A lot. I think people will pay for history for sure.
Good night, Sonia.
As we've seen, Sonia, she off.
Yep,
yeah, take care, Sonia. Thank you ever so much for dropping by. We'll see you soon. Stay safe.
So what? Yeah, I just want to reiterate with the guys in the chat again, Simon. So go and have a look at the video. The link to the video is on the description of this show. So come back and click on that link. Go and watch that video, and Simon and I will do the best that we can to organise getting Ramon on.
Because, that would be great. Actually, yeah.
He's messaged me a couple of times and wished us Happy New Year and said he suggested
fantastic.
Let's do another show. So we'll get him on talking about things that Ramon likes to talk about, guitars.
Yeah. Surely not. Yes.
And next Sunday, you will be happy, everyone in the chat, if you didn't catch up with what we said yesterday on the 5150 show. Simon and I and Brad are going to be doing part 1 of Abbey Road. So it's going to be a bit of a discussion about the time, the era, what was happening, some of the gear that the band was using. And then the week after that, we're going to be doing the ranking the tracks, Simon. So that'll be interesting. And as usual, we'll always promise to be honest and upfront with our opinions and our rankings.
It's a fascinating record, isn't it? Fascinating record.
Well, there's some pieces on there, and there's a couple of flops.
It experiments.
Experiments. That's the word.
Experiments.
Experiments.
Well,
Yeah.
I think this, and if I could find his bloody book, would be good. But I got a book by a man called John Savage called 1966, which is about kind of the sort of cultural background. You know, what was going on in '66. You know, and there's a whole kind of bit about that kind of creative opening up. You know that the Beatles were the leaders in and on that record, I think is still their willingness and their need to experiment, to try new things. We're talking not there's a Moog synthesizers on it and stuff like that on some of the tracks and things. To make kind of noises and things. Stuff. So I think that even some of the things don't necessarily, but they're still interesting because they still are riding that creative zeitgeist of the late 60s. That kind of opening up and that view that we're making art, we're not just making a few pop songs kind of thing. This is about art, this is about a cultural significance that maybe things didn't have before. And for that,
Yeah.
I think that that's what makes us astonishing. Whether certain individual things don't quite work in the way that looking back on them, but
There's one thing I want to say too, guys. I haven't had a turntable for a couple of years, and I picked up a turntable a couple of days ago, and I've been listening to some of my records, and I just have to tell you, after listening to CDs and uh, the streaming service Spotify for the last 4 or 5 years, listening to albums on vinyl, and you don't need a lot of money to get an expensive turntable. You don't need a lot of money to get a good sound system, some speakers. Most of the stuff that's coming out now is pretty good. But boy, Simon, you just can't beat vinyl. There is something about the sound on
it's a
vinyl.
significantly different experience, isn't it? Listening to something on vinyl
It's
than there is on
oh,
CDs or whatever.
I
Yeah.
just can't
Mm.
explain. I can't explain. I've just been the last day and a half. I've been doing nothing except for eating, playing my guitar, and listening to vinyl. It's just been fascinating. So maybe next week too. Next week I'll if I get a chance with you guys, I'll go through the box set. I wanted to
Yeah. Okay.
show
Yeah.
the box set, the Layla, the
Mm.
50th anniversary box set that I got. I was hoping to get for the show that Simon and Brad and I did last year, but it didn't arrive in time. But yeah.
Yeah. That's something. Yeah. I'm be interested in looking
I,
at that. And
I'm
yeah, fantastic.
I'm a fan of vinyl. I've got a shitload of records, but just listening to vinyl as opposed to compressed Spotify, Simon. Oh my god.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah. And as I said, I've had a record player since I was 17. I've got the
Yeah,
same
me.
one that I bought when I was 17, which
Yeah.
I still use. It's fantastic. But
Unfortunately, I've had 4 or 5, and they've all
mm,
disappeared for various reasons.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Whereas I've always had one, and always had I collected records up to a certain point in the sort of mid '80s or something, and then I did CDs, and then I went back to vinyl. So in fact,
Yeah.
I have a bit of overlap, but some bits of convenience, like wanting to play stuff in my car and things. But for the most part, I've got pretty much I've got all the Dylan albums, but they most all the early stuff, all his early stuff, I've got on vinyl, and I don't have them on CD. Pretty much the odd one I've got Blood on the Tracks, I think, on CD. But yeah, I love vinyl, and if I get a chance to buy a record on vinyl, then I'm up for it, because I think it's a significantly different experience. Listen to it. I think there's a thing about sides. So you when you listen to an album, you listen to a side, yeah. And if you're programming something for sides. So each side has to have an arc, tell a story, yeah. And you're putting on something, tracks in a particular order. If you've got five, you can only do 5 or 6 tracks a side, and that has to tell a bit of a story. 20 minutes is the perfect for me, the perfect amount of time to listen to something. Between whatever else you're doing, you can go in and play something for 20 minutes. And if it's an album, it's designed as an album, that will be a complete listening experience to listen to one side.
Well,
And I
Robot
think
Master Switch
you don't
he's answered the question here. So just echoing
yeah,
what you're saying, Simon. I won't be buying any more CDs from now on. Any music purchases I will be doing from now on, Simon and Robot, will be vinyl. Anything else that I will listen to, Simon, will just be on Spotify. I won't be buying any CDs.
No, I'm I quite like having CDs for my car. It's the only thing I do. But quite often, if you buy vinyl records, you'll get a download token for it, so you can download
Yep.
it as a thing, or you get get as part of the thing. But yeah, so I mean, on all recent stuff like the last Bruce Springsteen album, Letter to You, I bought it on vinyl, and I think Robot Master Switch. The really cool thing is now they're using really good quality vinyl, and often you'll buy it, not single albums, but double albums. So Bruce Springsteen's The Letter to You is a single album length, 40 minutes. And by the way, I think that's a good thing. I think the CD where suddenly you can get 70 minutes worth of music on, I don't think that's an improvement myself. All those people, instead of getting 10, 11, 12 tight songs, really good, the temptation to put 15, 16 songs on, I don't think that's an improvement myself. I think actually having, like we've discussed on here a lot, having that that constraint gives it a creativity that that is very different to a CD.
Well, before I went live, I listened to this on record, and you can hear crackles through the whole album. You can hear, and it's like, and I'm sitting here on my chair, just leaning back as you do, smiling. I hadn't listened to records for 5 years because I've been doing other things, and and getting a turntable just wasn't a priority. But after doing these shows with Brad and Simon, and making a decision when I was listening to some albums with some friends when I was on break, Simon, I got to do it.
Yeah. As I say, I've never not done it, although because I've always had a record collection, because in the 79 to 82 I worked in a record shop, so I've got a collection of vinyl that I've got from them. I've sold a few bits and pieces, but like all the early Dylan albums, I've just got them all on vinyl. All the Bruce Springsteen stuff got on vinyl, lots of other stuff that yes, proper recliner. Do not disturb. Yes, Robot. That's exactly it. Yeah, but that as I say, for me, it's significantly different listening experience on vinyl than there is on, and I continue to buy vinyl, and if I see, and I think most people now, you don't have to be a big artist to do it. I think there was a period where people just didn't do vinyl, but now everyone's doing vinyl,
And because if the record companies, if them, because they conned us. They told us that CDs were going to be, and we all fell for it. We all fell for it, And then, you know, record shops once upon a time ceased to exist. And then you had, you know, yeah, we all fell for it.
Sonia, which Pioneer deck have you got? I've got a Pioneer 112D deck, which is a little, just, you know, 3-thing belt turntable. Which one have you got? Bought in about 1977 or something, which I still have, which is hopeless. But no, actually, it's fine. It's fine. You can still get styluses for it. I'm happy with it as a thing.
Yeah.
But
Can't go
it's
wrong.
no. So I'm pleased you've rediscovered vinyl, because having not really, you know, having, as I said, I made that decision quite a long time ago that I was, you know, CDs, all right, but actually I'm going to buy stuff on vinyl. You know, I made that decision about 10 years ago, and what I buy now, I tend to buy on vinyl if I can.
Yep.
There are some things you just can't get on vinyl. And I'm fine with that. I don't, you know, like the when we were doing Layla, when you know, the band live at the Fillmore stuff, you can't get that on vinyl. It's just a CD, and you know, but that's fine. I don't mind a CD, you know, especially for live concerts and things like that, because I think that's where actually a CD can, you know, you can get the complete experience. Like I've got all these Bruce Springsteen live, you know, in the 70s.
But you
and
hear
early
things.
80s.
You hear things on
Oh yeah, it's
vinyl
different.
that
Yeah, that you don't know. Yeah,
hear on Spotify. So I'm sitting down
yeah.
yesterday afternoon listening to Van Halen's
51,
Carnal
50.
Knowledge.
Oh, on North Carolina. Yeah.
I'm listening to that album, and I'm hearing some rhythm guitar that Eddie's playing on Pound Cake that you don't hear on
That
Spotify.
you don't hear on the Spotify. Really? That's
It's
interesting.
it's just it's remarkable.
Do you think it's, yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. I don't know why, because you'd expect on digital, you'd expect to hear it, wouldn't you? Regardless of Sony's got a modern one, PL 400.
Well, you're not getting that fullness. You're not getting that fullness of it. And yeah, I was stunned. I was stunned by the quality. So look forward to rediscovering
Yeah.
and going back, because I haven't bought vinyl for
Oh.
well, I've been
Well,
starting to buy them, but I haven't bought any consistently for years.
well, it's come on, you know, instead of you know, people are now, you get them on 280-gram, you know, an organ, so you get like 3 tracks aside kind of thing. The Bruce Springsteen record, interestingly, it only uses 3 sides. It doesn't
Wow.
use 4 sides. So it's got 2 or 3 tracks aside kind of thing. But yeah, only use 3 sides. The 4th side has nothing on it, which is fine. I'm all for that. That's, you know, really cool as far as I'm concerned. So a Robot Must, which I, you know, absolutely agree with you that for us, music is akin to air, water, and food, you know, and that's what I you know, vinyl I think is brilliant. You know, put it on in the sitting room, just have 20 minutes. It's a, you know, tremendous, and I think now if you're buying things, you know, on vinyl, you're actually getting really good quality stuff, because you know, not necessarily single album. You know, as I say, I got two vinyl records and 3 tracks aside, so the grooves are far apart, so you get a tremendous sound off them,
Yes,
which I
Brad.
think is, you know, yes, Brad, time to get yourself an LP player.
Yeah. But you know, I just want to echo what Robo Master Switch said. You know, and I'll say this seriously. If I had to make a choice about, you know, having a variety of food to eat for the rest of my life, and or just peanut butter sandwiches and water, and continue to play and listen to music, guess what it would be, Simon? You'd be looking at
Oh,
a
it's
skinny
completely, yeah.
co-host.
We could all be doing that. It's a and yeah. Welcome to Johnny Heartbreaker, who says CDs have a convenience of others, and that's absolutely right, Johnny. That's why
Absolutely.
I'm not against a CD.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
I play them in my car. I have
Me
CDs in
too.
my car.
I got
Sometimes I'll buy a
shitloads of them.
CD, yeah, and stuff like
Yep.
that. You know, because I like CDs in car. Actually, I was you know, when we were doing the unplugged Eric Clapton, I was spent quite a lot of time listening to it in my car, because because
Yep.
you know, it's a really good place to listen to stuff, you know, and I think, you know, CD is fine for car and stuff like that. So I completely agree with you that it's, Johnny, it's because I'm old, you see, and I can't get, I started on vinyl and I can't get out of it. These modern things, these streaming service things, terrible.
Yeah. Oh,
Fine.
look,
So,
convenience is a good argument. Convenience is a great argument. When I take my dog for a walk, I've got my headphones on. I can hook into Spotify and I can listen to Abbey Road and make some mental notes about the show that we're going to do next week. But when I want to appreciate and kick back, as Robo Master Switch said, in my recliner and experience music.
as an immersive
Anyway.
thing, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Put it on and turn it up. That's that, and you get something you don't get from a CD.
Hey
sure.
guys, we've been on the air for an hour and a half. I've enjoyed every minute hanging out with you and my co-host Simon. If you guys can please share the channel. I forgot to mention at the top of the show we were streaming on YouTube and also on the All Things Eric Clapton British Electric Blues Facebook page too. So we'll always try and stream the shows on some Facebook pages that we're related to. We've managed to pick up a few subs over the last couple of weeks, and it's all been through your guys' hard work out there. Please, Simon and Brad and I will be really, really happy if we can get 1,000 subscribers by December, and we can only do that by you guys helping us. So if you can share the channel, that's only if you think anything that Simon and I and Brad have to say is at least a little bit interesting. But we'd be grateful if you could help share the channel because we enjoy doing it.
Just to just pick up before we go, a couple of Arvin. Vinyl is more expensive than CDs. It's like £20, not
big time,
not a tenner, let's say. So it's probably about twice as expensive. I don't buy that much, therefore I. We won't, Johnny. That's fine. Thank you. I was just while you were talking, I was just looking about. Just thinking about. I got some Bruce Springsteen live albums from 1978. The Agora Ballroom, all sorts of stuff. I was just looking on Amazon in the UK for about, because they've got this weird thing about if you broadcasts, if it was broadcast on the radio, then you can release it as a thing, as like a European law. So they've got Van Halen from Pittsburgh, 1998, on the double live CD on Amazon.
Wow.
So yeah, that's just a kind of sort of things that if you could buy, it's only 12 quid as well, so it's not not very expensive double CD.
Oh, you guys
Pretty
are
cool.
saying some nice things. Appreciate it, Warren.
Yeah.
We believe it or not, we're just humble guys. We're just music fans. We're the same as you guys, and I wouldn't be doing my job properly if I didn't say that you guys always have an open invitation. Should you want to jump on and hang out with Simon, Brad, and I, you guys, or I'll send you the link.
Yeah, it'd be great. It'd be great to have you guys on. Yeah.
Yep.
Everyone's got a story.
Yep.
And we'd like to hear it.
So we'll make room for anybody that's watching in the chat to jump on, and we'll talk about anything you want to talk about too. So you can't get better than that.
Thank you, Robert Wasser. That's very kind. We try our best, and we try to include everybody in, which I think is, for me, one of the most important things. That you guys are a part of it, and we, we pay attention to what you're saying.
So next week, Abbey Road. What a show! Yeah. That's going to be a good one to kick the air off proper with the British Electric Blues Sunday show. We're looking forward to digging deep in that, and I really like the idea on some of these big albums that we do, how we set the scene, because I think that's really good, because that's an important part of the album, Simon. We did it well with Layla, setting the scene, what was going on, what was in the mind behind, the guys, what was happening, the relationship struggles that were going on, the maturity that the bands were going, that the guys were getting, the drugs, the effect that had on them,
For
the
sure.
politics.
Yeah. Yoko Ono.
Yoko Ono. Yes, and we do have to talk about Yoko Ono.
I was watching that. I found on YouTube there was like, God, it was like I didn't watch it all, but there was like 2 and 3/4 hours of film. Let it get back. I think it was. It was like and it was like quite a lot of it's kind of out of focus, which
I watched it this morning.
But yeah, but do you see all those shots with John Lennon playing and Yoko Ono sitting beside him?
Well, I look forward to sharing with you guys and our chat people my theory about John Lennon and Yoko Ono next week, and we'll be respectful. We'll be respectful. Yeah. I promise you, we are we're a family show. We'll be respectful, but there are things that need to be said.
Well, there's things, but as I said earlier, it's things about the times. You're talking about 50 years ago, and that's a long time ago. And that whole kind of 68, 69, 70, that kind of all that stuff. He's the sort of the cultural melting pot stuff that was going on there cannot be underestimated. And Yoko Ono is a part of that. What are you laughing at?
No, I'm just laughing at Bobby Whitlock's video where he says it brilliantly. If you guys haven't checked out Bobby Whitlock, because he's the Southern guy, he's very articulate from a Southern gentleman's organic intellectual's perspective, and he's offering up his memories, and they're fantastic. Very lucid guy. But he's talking about how they gave him a copy of Two Virgins, and he's sitting there and he's looking, and he says, he said, who wants to look at these haggy asses and these flat jack titties and John Lennon's uncircumcised yuck.
Oh man!
It's so funny.
Welcome to 1970.
He goes, oh.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, funny. Yeah, but that prism of looking at it from 50 years ago, from now. Yes, now. Well, now it's a completely different thing. But but yeah. Yes, the thought that a pop star of that caliber, would just have a naked photograph of themselves and they're just au naturel, on the thing. It's like it's almost unthinkable now, isn't it? I don't know what the equivalent is now, but let's say Kanye West and Kim Kardashian. It's like really.
Oh, look.
There's an image you can never unsee.
John, yeah. I look forward to that show. We're going to sign off.
Yeah, big fun. Stop being scurrilous, being naughty now. But so, guys, thanks for all I'll say goodnight. Robot Master Switch, thank you very much. It's fantastic. Nelson Rodriguez as ever. Warren, blues guitar and harmonica. Sonia, of course. Sonia, thank you so much for your hard work and very kind words. Nice, Aurelia. And Brad, see you next Sunday. Looking forward to it.
Cheers, brother.
Back in the saddle. Great Vanzini, of course. Great Vanzini and Arvin as well. So thanks all, and Johnny Heartbreaker as well. Great name, Johnny Heartbreaker. So thanks all for joining. We're really pleased that you enjoyed it, and thank you for your comments and joining in. And we'll see you next Sunday.
Watch that video about Gibson, Clapton's Les Paul, and we'll come back in a month's time and do a follow-up on that show.
Lovely. Yeah, be great. We'll see you next week, Brad.